Deep in the forgotten corners of Pinecrest Valley, 10-year-old Tommy Miller stumbles upon a sight no child should witness. A man, filthy, wounded, and chained to an ancient oak, begs the boy for water, for mercy, for freedom. The stranger's eyes hold unspeakable fear, yet something else lurks behind them. Tommy stands frozen, his young mind racing. Help this man and risk freeing someone dangerous? Or leave him chained and carry that burden forever? In this small mountain town, where everyone claims to know everyone else's business, nobody knows this man's story. Why would someone chain another human being in these peaceful woods? What terrible secrets hide beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic community? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Pinecrest Valley, nestled between towering mountains. Population sign reading 2003-12 souls, though everyone knew old Mrs. Henley passed last winter. Main Street consisted of exactly 12 storefronts, a diner, and the municipal building housing both town hall and the sheriff's office. Tommy Miller walked this route every day, scuffing his worn sneakers against the sidewalk cracks. At 10 years old, he stood a head shorter than most boys his age, making him an easy target for the Carson twins and their after-school torments. "You're just small because you don't eat enough," his mother Sarah would say, sliding extra pancakes onto his plate at breakfast. At 38, she worked double shifts at Valley Diner, dark circles, permanent fixtures beneath her kind eyes. Tommy pushed open their front door, the familiar scent of his grandfather's pipe tobacco greeting him. Earl Miller sat in his worn armchair, staring out the window, sometimes present, sometimes lost in the fog that increasingly claimed his mind. "That you, Tommy?" Earl called, his voice stronger today. "Good days were becoming precious." "Yes, sir," Tommy answered, dropping his backpack and settling at his grandfather's feet. Earl had been sheriff for 27 years before retirement. Forced retirement, though Tommy only learned that from whispered conversations. The current sheriff, Alan Cooper, had been Earl's deputy once. Now he barely acknowledged the old man during his wellness checks that felt more like inspections. "Found anything interesting today?" Earl asked, gesturing to Tommy's pocket where a stone always resided. Tommy produced his latest treasure, a piece of quartz with threads of gold-colored mineral running through it. "From the creek bed by the lightning tree." Earl examined it carefully, running his thumb over its surface. "Good eye. You notice things others miss. It was their ritual, this exchange of stones and approval." Tommy's bedroom housed a carefully labeled collection, his most prized possessions. Each stone represented a story, a place, a moment of discovery. "Grandpa, what's the difference between a secret and a lie?" Tommy asked suddenly. Earl's eyes sharpened, the cloudiness receding. "That's a heavy question. Jason Carson said I was lying about finding a real arrowhead, but I wasn't. I just didn't tell him where I found it." Earl leaned forward. "A secret is something true you don't share. A lie is something false you do share." He patted Tommy's shoulder. "Some secrets need keeping. Some need telling. Wisdom is knowing the difference." Tommy nodded, tucking the lesson away like another specimen for his collection. The phone rang, startling them both. Sarah must have returned from her shift. Tommy heard her muted voice, then a sudden silence. "Everything okay, Mom?" Tommy called. Sarah appeared in the doorway, her smile tight. "Fine, honey. Just the school about tomorrow's field trip." Tommy knew the look. Something wasn't right, but she wouldn't burden him with it. From outside came a shout, then the sound of a bicycle bell. Lily Chen, Tommy's best friend and self-appointed protector, never used the front door if she could help it. "Tommy, I found a bat skeleton," she called through the open window. "Come see." Lily's father ran the town's only medical practice. Dr. Chen was respected, but never fully embraced, even after 15 years in Pinecrest. Lily inherited his curiosity and scientific precision, but her boldness was entirely her own. "Can I go, Mom?" Tommy asked. Sarah hesitated, glancing outside. "Be back before dark. No going past the ridge." Tommy grabbed his red backpack, never left home without it, packed with his exploration essentials. Notebook, Magnifying glass, water bottle, granola bars, and a first aid kit, Lily's insistence after the bee sting incident. Outside, Lily waited impatiently, her dark hair escaping its practical braid. I was looking for moss samples by the old fence line and found it under a log. Perfect skeleton, Tommy. As they headed toward the woods at the edge of town, Sheriff Cooper's patrol car rolled slowly past. He watched them through mirrored sunglasses, face unreadable. "Why's he always watching us?" Lily whispered. "Grandpa says he's just doing his job," Tommy replied, though doubt colored his words. "My dad says some people in this town have long memories and short welcomes," Lily said. They reached the trailhead as the sun began its westward journey. Tomorrow, Tommy would venture deeper into these woods alone and find something that would change everything. But today was just another afternoon in Pinecrest Valley, where secrets slept beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered by those who noticed things others missed. Tommy ventured deeper into the forest than usual that Thursday morning. School was closed for teacher planning, and his mother's early shift meant freedom until afternoon. The morning fog hung between pine trunks like ghostly curtains. Muffling his footsteps on the damp ground, he followed the creek upstream, past his usual turning point where Earl had once warned, "The mountain gets rougher beyond here, son." But today something pulled him forward, curiosity, restlessness, or perhaps fate disguised as a boy's adventure. The ancient oak appeared suddenly as the fog parted. Its massive trunk and sprawling branches would normally inspire awe, but Tommy's attention fixed immediately on what lay beneath it. A man sat slumped against the trunk, heavy chains binding his ankles and left wrist to the tree. His clothes, once decent jeans and flannel, were filthy and torn. Several days' growth of beard couldn't hide his gaunt cheeks. When he raised his head, his eyes held equal measures of fear and hope. "Please," the man whispered, his voice cracking. "Water." Tommy froze, heart hammering. Every warning about strangers flooded his mind. He took one step backward. "Wait!" The man's voice strengthened with desperation. "Please don't leave. If they find out you saw me, He swallowed hard. "They'll kill me." "Who?" Tommy managed to ask, still poised for flight. "People you know. People everyone trusts." The man pulled against his chains, metal biting into skin already raw and scabbed. "I just need water." "Then go if you want." Tommy's hand moved automatically to his backpack, retrieving his water bottle. Approaching carefully, arm extended full length, he offered it. The man drank desperately, water spilling down his chin. When he finished, clarity returned to his eyes. "Thank you." "I'm Daniel." "Daniel, right. I'm Tommy." "Tommy," Daniel repeated, seeming to measure the name. "You should go now. Forget you saw me." Instead, Tommy lowered himself to a rock several feet away. "Why are you chained up?" "I asked too many questions." Daniel's laugh was hollow. "I'm a writer, a researcher. I came to study the history of mining towns like yours, but I found something." He glanced nervously at the surrounding trees. "Something they don't want known." "Who's they?" "Your sheriff, for one." Daniel's words landed like stones. "Mayor Reynolds. Others." Tommy thought of Sheriff Cooper's mirrored sunglasses, how they watched without revealing. "I should tell someone." "No!" Daniel's outburst startled a nearby bird into flight. "Not the sheriff. Not anyone in authority. My mom, would you put her in danger too?" Daniel's voice gentled. "They've kept this secret a long time, Tommy. They won't stop now." Tommy studied the man's face, searching for deceit. His grandfather taught him to read people's eyes. Windows to truth, Earl called them. Daniels held fear, exhaustion, but nothing that raised Tommy's instinctive alarm. "Are you a bad guy?" Tommy asked directly. "No." Daniel held his gaze. But the people who did this? They might be." Tommy noticed something half buried in leaves near Daniel's foot, a worn leather wallet. "Is that yours?" Daniel looked down, surprised. "No, must have fallen from one of them." Tommy retrieved it, flipping it open. No ID or cards, just a faded photograph of a younger Mayor Reynolds with his arm around a stranger, both in hunting gear, standing before what looked like a mine entrance. A strange symbol was carved into the stone above them. "I'll come back," Tommy decided aloud, returning the wallet to exactly where he found it. With food and more water. They check on me at dusk, Daniel warned. And Tommy? If you decide to tell someone after all, choose carefully. Tommy repacked his bag, mind racing through options. His mother would call the sheriff immediately. Lily might help, but her father was on the town council with Mayor Reynolds. His teacher would notify authorities. That left Grandpa Earl, but even on his good days, would anyone believe him? As Tommy turned to leave, Daniel called softly, "Why would you help me? You don't know me." Tommy thought of his grandfather's words about secrets and lies, about right and wrong existing separate from rules, because nobody should be chained to a tree, he answered simply, then disappeared into the fog-shrouded forest, carrying a burden heavier than any stone in his collection. Tommy slipped through his front door as quietly as possible, but Sarah's maternal radar detected him immediately. "Where have you been?" She emerged from the kitchen, wiping hands on her diner uniform. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just exploring," Tommy mumbled, avoiding her eyes. Sarah studied him, concern deepening the lines around her mouth. "You're pale. Are you feeling okay?" "Fine, just hungry." Not entirely a lie, his stomach churned with both hunger and anxiety. At the kitchen table, Earl sat with today's newspaper, though Tommy noticed it was upside down. One of his grandfather's bad days, then. Sarah set a sandwich before Tommy, ruffling his hair as she passed. "I need to head back for the dinner shift. Mrs. Atkins cancelled again." Sarah sighed, gathering her purse. "Keep an eye on Grandpa. Sheriff Cooper might stop by to check on him." Tommy's head snapped up. "Why?" "Just routine," Sarah said, but something in her expression suggested otherwise. "Be good. I'll be home by 9. After she left, Tommy picked at his sandwich, mind racing. The man in the woods, Daniel, would be getting thirstier, hungrier. How long had he been there? Who would chain another person to a tree? The telephone's shrill ring interrupted his thoughts. Tommy reached it before it could wake Earl from his light doze. "Miller residence. Tommy?" Mayor Reynolds' booming voice was unmistakable. "Is your mother home, son?" "No, sir." "She's working." A pause. "And Earl?" Resting, another pause, longer this time. "Well, tell Sarah I called. And Tommy, I heard you were up near North Ridge yesterday. That area's dangerous, old mine shafts. Best stick to the trails closer to town." Tommy's blood ran cold. He hadn't been near North Ridge yesterday. "Yes, sir." After hanging up, Tommy checked on Earl, now snoring softly in his chair. The afternoon stretched before him, heavy with indecision. He pulled his worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird from the bookshelf. His grandfather had given it to him last year, saying, "Read it when you're ready to understand why doing right isn't always doing what's easy." The margins contained Earl's neat handwriting. Observations and questions accumulated through multiple readings. One passage was heavily underlined. "The one thing that doesn't abide by majority rule is a person's conscience." A sudden knock made Tommy jump. Through the window, he recognized Sheriff Cooper's patrol car. Tommy shook Earl gently. "Grandpa, Sheriff Cooper's here." Earl blinked, confusion clearing slightly. "Alan, what's he want?" "Just checking on you." Tommy opened the door as Cooper mounted the porch steps. "Tommy!" The sheriff nodded curtly. "Earl awake?" Tommy led him to the living room, where Earl straightened in his chair. "Alan," Earl acknowledged, a flicker of his former authority surfacing. "To what do we owe the pleasure?" Cooper removed his mirrored sunglasses, revealing eyes that never quite settled on Earl's. "Just following up. Earl, making sure you're doing all right." "Still breathing," Earl replied dryly, "and behaving, I hope." Cooper's laugh held no humor. "No more midnight wanderings?" "No more. Stories." Tommy tensed at the condescending tone. "My mind may wander," Earl said quietly, "but I know what's real and what isn't." Cooper turned to Tommy. "Your mother working late again? That's tough on a kid." The false sympathy raised Tommy's hackles. "We're fine. Sure you are?" Cooper replaced his sunglasses. "Well, I should get going." "Oh, Tommy, stay out of the North Woods. Not safe for kids." After the sheriff left, Earl seemed more lucid, watching Tommy with narrowed eyes. "What's troubling you, son?" Tommy hesitated, then asked, "Grandpa, what if you found someone who needed help, but helping them might be dangerous?" Earl studied him. "That's the test, isn't it? Anyone can help when it's easy. He tapped the book in Tommy's hands. What does your conscience tell you? That I should help, Tommy admitted. But Mom always says to tell grown-ups if something's wrong. Grown-ups aren't always right, Earl said, surprising Tommy. When I was sheriff, I saw things. Made choices. He drifted momentarily, then refocused. Sometimes the law and justice aren't the same thing. Tommy leaned closer. What if it was something really bad? Something Sheriff Cooper wouldn't want found out? A sharpness entered Earl's gaze. Alan wasn't always what he is now. He gripped Tommy's arm suddenly. Be careful who you trust, Tommy. Even good men can do terrible things for what they think are right reasons. That night, Tommy lay awake, his grandfather's words echoing. From his window, he could just see the dark outline of the mountains. Somewhere in those woods, a man remained chained to a tree. Tomorrow, Tommy would have to decide where his conscience led him. You found a what? Lily's whisper was so loud that Tommy frantically shushed her. They huddled behind the school gymnasium during morning recess, Tommy having finally decided he needed an ally. Lily listened with widening eyes as he recounted his discovery in the woods. A man chained to a tree, Tommy repeated. And he says Sheriff Cooper and Mayor Reynolds are involved? That's crazy, Lily said, but her expression was thoughtful rather than dismissive. Why would they do that? Something about the town's history, secrets. Tommy kicked at the dirt. I promised I'd go back with food and water. You can't go alone, Lily decided immediately. I'm coming too. It could be dangerous. Daniel said, Daniel? First name basis with the mysterious chained man. Lily raised an eyebrow. All the more reason you need backup. The school bell rang, ending their conference. As they walked to class, Lily grabbed Tommy's arm. After school, my dad's doing vaccination clinics at the elementary school. I know where he keeps the first aid supplies. Throughout math and history, Tommy's mind wandered to the ancient oak and its prisoner. His stomach clenched when their history teacher, Mrs. Peavy, announced they'd be learning about Pinecrest Valley's founding. Our town began in 1849, when 3 prospectors discovered gold in these mountains, she recited, pointing to a faded portrait of stern-looking men. The founding fathers, Jacob Reynolds, William Cooper, and Thomas Wright, established our community based on principles of hard work and sacrifice. Tommy straightened at the name Wright. Could Daniel be related to one of the founders? After school, Tommy met Lily behind her father's clinic. She emerged triumphant, backpack bulging. First aid kit, protein bars from Dad's office, and water bottles, she announced. Let's go. They took a circuitous route to avoid being seen heading toward the North Woods. Once among the trees, Tommy led the way, retracing his steps from yesterday. How much further? Lily asked after 20 minutes of hiking. Just past that ridge, Tommy pointed. Lily, when he sees you, he might freak out. I'll charm him with my bedside manner, she replied with forced lightness. But Tommy saw fear behind her bravado. They crested the ridge and descended toward the ancient oak. Tommy stopped suddenly, pulling Lily behind a fallen log. Daniel looked worse than yesterday. His head lolled against the tree trunk, eyes closed. Fresh bruises darkened his jaw and left cheek. They beat him, Tommy whispered, horrified. Lily's medical instincts took over. She approached confidently, Tommy following. Daniel's eyes flew open at their footsteps, fear replacing confusion when he saw Lily. Who's she? He demanded hoarsely. My friend Lily. Her dad's a doctor. She brought first aid stuff. Daniel relaxed slightly, wincing as he shifted position. They weren't happy about the water bottle. Who? Lily asked, already opening her stolen first aid kit. Deputy Jackson and Mayor Reynolds. Daniel submitted to Lily's examination with the resigned patience of someone accustomed to pain. They pay their respects every evening. Lily cleaned a cut above Daniel's eye with antiseptic wipes. Why don't you tell us everything? Start with why you're chained to a tree. Daniel's gaze moved between the children. You're putting yourselves in danger. Already done that, Tommy said, unpacking food and water. Might as well know why. Daniel drank deeply before speaking. I came to research a book on mining towns. My father was investigating the same subject 30 years ago before he disappeared. He paused, watching their reactions. The last place he was seen was here, Pinecrest Valley. What was his name? Tommy asked, remembering the history lesson. Michael Wright, like the founder? Thomas Wright. Daniel nodded. My ancestor. I came looking for my father, but found something bigger. Records of accidents, disappearances, all connected to the mine and always around Founders' Day celebrations. That's this weekend, Lily interjected. 3 days from now, yes, Daniel's voice lowered. And if I'm right, they plan to make me part of their ceremony. What ceremony? Tommy asked. I'm not certain, but Daniel tensed suddenly. Someone's coming. Hide now! Tommy and Lily scrambled behind dense underbrush as footsteps approached. Through gaps in the foliage, they watched a familiar figure emerge. Deputy Jackson, Mayor Reynolds' stepson, and Sheriff Cooper's right hand. Talking to yourself again, right? The deputy smirked, prodding Daniel with his boot. Won't be doing much talking after Saturday. Tommy held his breath, feeling Lily tremble beside him. They'd left their backpacks by the tree, evidence of their presence. But the deputy seemed focused only on tormenting Daniel. The sheriff thinks you need a lesson about keeping secrets, Jackson continued, unholstering his taser. This is from him. Tommy looked away as electricity crackled and Daniel's muffled scream cut through the peaceful forest. When he dared look again, the deputy was walking away, and Daniel hung limply against his chains. When Jackson's footsteps faded, they rushed to Daniel, who struggled to stay conscious. Run, he managed to whisper. Tell no one. Check the mine. North Ridge. His head dropped as he passed out, leaving Tommy and Lily staring at each other over his slumped form, their childhood innocence evaporating in the shadow of unspeakable cruelty. Tommy and Lily worked frantically to revive Daniel. Lily's slender fingers checked his pulse while Tommy dabbed water onto the unconscious man's cracked lips. He's alive, Lily confirmed, but his heartbeat's all wrong. From the taser? Probably. Lily's face, normally animated, had settled into a grim mask. Tommy, this is serious. Really serious. That was a police officer who just tortured someone. Daniel stirred, groaning. His eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly on the children. You're still here, he croaked. You need to go. We're trying to help you, Tommy insisted. Best help is finding the truth. Daniel struggled to sit straighter. The North Ridge mine. There are records hidden there, proof of what they've been doing. What exactly have they been doing? Lily demanded. Daniel hesitated. You're just kids. Kids who are risking everything to help you, Tommy countered. Daniel conceded with a painful nod. Every 30 years, someone disappears in Pinecrest Valley. The official stories vary. Accidents, runaways. But always around Founders' Day, and always followed by an economic boom for the town. What happens to them? Lily asked, though her tone suggested she already feared the answer. I think Daniel's explanation cut short as he tensed. Someone's coming back. Multiple footsteps. The children dove behind a thick bramble patch just as voices approached. Tommy recognized Mayor Reynolds's authoritative tone immediately, followed by the sheriff's more measured cadence. Damage is done, Frank, Cooper was saying. A right's been seen. By who? The mayor demanded. Trail camera caught 2 kids yesterday. Miller boy and the Chen girl. Tommy and Lily exchanged horrified glances. They'd been photographed. Those 2. Reynolds snorted. Who'd believe them over us? Earl Miller might, Cooper said quietly. Even in his condition, people respect him. Earl's mind is gone, Reynolds dismissed. And Sarah Miller knows better than to make waves. They came into view now, the mayor in his tailored suit, incongruous in the forest setting. Sheriff Cooper looked uncomfortable, avoiding looking directly at Daniel. How's our guest of honor? Reynolds approached Daniel, who glared defiantly despite his weakened state. Not honored, Daniel managed. Reynolds laughed coldly. Your father said something similar. Before the ceremony, Daniel lunged against his chains. You bastard! You killed him! Sacrificed, Reynolds corrected mildly. For the greater good. Just as your ancestor understood was necessary. From their hiding place, Tommy could see the mayor toying with something in his pocket. A small carved figurine that he rubbed like a worrystone. The town prospers, the mine produces, Reynolds continued. All it requires is 1 life every 30 years. Your father, and now you. Perfect symmetry, don't you think? Cooper shifted uncomfortably. Frank, we should check the perimeter. Those kids, relax, Alan, we'll find them. Jackson's watching the Chen girl's house, and I've had a word with Sarah Miller. Reynolds smiled thinly. Nothing interrupts Founders' Day. The ceremony continues, as it has since 1849. Cooper ran a hand through his grey hair. What if Earl remembers? He nearly exposed everything 30 years ago. Earl's convenient dementia solved that problem, Reynolds said dismissively. Tommy felt sick. Were they implying something had been done to his grandfather? Reynolds knelt before Daniel. Comfortable, no? Good, by Saturday night your discomfort will end permanently. Meanwhile, we need to locate your little friends. As Reynolds stood, something fell from Deputy Jackson's jacket pocket, landing softly on the pine needles. Neither man noticed, but Tommy did. A walkie-talkie, its antenna snapped. Jackson reported the kids brought supplies, Cooper said, gesturing to the backpack and first aid kit. They'll be back. Then we'll be waiting, Reynolds replied. Post someone nearby, out of sight. When they return, follow them home. I want to know who else they've told, and if they've told others. Reynolds' face hardened. Then we'll have more than one ceremony to perform. The men departed, leaving Daniel sagging against his chains. Tommy and Lily remained frozen until the footsteps faded completely. They're going to kill you, Lily whispered as they emerged from hiding. And now they're hunting us too. The mine, Daniel rasped. Find the records. It's your only chance. Tommy darted forward to retrieve the fallen walkie-talkie. Evidence, he explained, tucking it into his pocket. We'll come back for you, Lily promised Daniel. No! Daniel's voice strengthened with urgency. Save yourselves. Find the truth. Northridge Mine has a hidden entrance on the east side. That's where the ceremonial chamber is. Tommy helped Daniel drink the last of their water. We'll get help. Real help. Be careful who you trust, Daniel warned. This runs deeper than you know. As they prepared to leave, Tommy noticed something he'd missed before. The tree trunk behind Daniel bore the same strange symbol he'd seen in the wallet photograph, carved deep into the ancient bark. The same symbol Mayor Reynolds had been fingering in his pocket. Run, Daniel urged. And don't look back. They fled through the darkening forest. The weight of witnessing evil heavy on their young shoulders. The broken walkie-talkie bouncing against Tommy's leg with each running step. We can't go home, Lily panted as they reached the edge of town, hidden behind the recycling center. They'll be watching. Tommy nodded, trying to control his breathing and racing thoughts. Shadows lengthened across Main Street as afternoon surrendered to evening. Soon his mother would be wondering where he was. The library, he decided. Mrs. Henderson always leaves the side window unlocked for the stray cats. They crossed town using back alleys and yards, ducking twice as patrol cars cruised slowly past. The library's brick facade never looked so welcoming as when they slipped through the unlocked window into the reference section. What are we looking for exactly? Lily whispered, though the building was empty. Anything about Northridge Mine? The founders or sacrifices, Tommy replied, flicking on a reading lamp at the furthest table from the windows. Lily headed for the local history section, while Tommy tackled the newspaper archives. Silence fell, punctuated only by the turning of pages and the building's occasional creaks. Tommy, look at this, Lily called softly after 20 minutes. She'd spread open a leather-bound volume titled Pinecrest Valley, the First Century. The book showed the same three founders from their classroom portrait, but this version included the strange symbol Tommy had seen on the tree, prominently displayed on a banner behind them. It's called the Prosperity Mark, Lily read. Supposedly brought from the old country by Thomas Wright as a good luck charm for mining. Some luck, Tommy muttered. His descendant is chained to a tree. His fingers worked methodically through microfiche rolls of old newspapers. He paused at a headline from 30 years ago. Tragedy at North Ridge. Mine collapse claims 7 lives. The article listed the victims, including Michael Wright, 34, visiting journalist. A photograph showed rescue workers at a mine entrance, the same entrance from the wallet photo. That's Daniel's father, Tommy pointed. Reynolds said they sacrificed him. But the article says mine collapse, Lily countered. A cover story. Tommy continued scanning. "Look at this quote from Sheriff Earl Miller. Investigation ongoing into possible safety violations." "Your grandfather investigated?" Lily asked. "Until," Tommy's voice faltered, "until he was forced into early retirement. Reynolds said his convenient dementia solved that problem." Lily's face paled. "You think they did something to him? Made him sick somehow?" Before Tommy could answer, voices approached from the front entrance. They doused the lamp and ducked beneath the table as keys jingled in the lock. "Checking all public buildings." Sheriff Cooper's voice echoed in the empty space. "Mayor wants them found tonight." "Just kids," another voice replied. "Officer Peyton, the department's newest member." "What's the big deal?" "Follow orders," Cooper snapped. "Check the back rooms." Flashlight beams swept through the darkened library. Tommy clutched the newspaper printout, folding it silently. They needed to move or be discovered. Lily pointed to a fire exit behind the reference desk. Tommy nodded, and they crawled slowly between the stacks, freezing whenever a floorboard creaked. "Something's not right about all this," Peyton said, voice closer now. "What did these kids do anyway?" "Ask the wrong questions," Cooper replied tersely. "Like someone else 30 years ago. They reached the fire exit, but pushing the bar would trigger an alarm." Tommy turned to find another way, and found himself staring at Sheriff Cooper's boots just on the other side of the reference desk. Lily tugged his sleeve, pointing up. The desk had a knee-hole for the librarian. They squeezed underneath just as Cooper rounded the corner, flashlight beams sweeping where they'd been seconds before. "All clear in back," Peyton called from the other room. Cooper's radio crackled. "Sheriff Jackson here. No sign of them at either residence, but Mrs. Miller just got home. Want me to question her?" Cooper hesitated, standing so close Tommy could have touched his shoe. "No, Mayor's calling a special council meeting. Bring Dr. Chen in. Maybe his daughter told him something." "Roger that." Cooper's footsteps retreated. "We're done here, Peyton. Let's check the school next." The front door closed, lock engaging. Tommy and Lily remained frozen for several minutes, ensuring they were truly alone. "They're going after our parents," Lily whispered, horror in her voice. "We need help," Tommy said. "Real help, like Daniel said. Who? The state police?" Tommy shook his head. "They'd call the local department first. We need someone who already knows something's wrong here." He unfolded the newspaper article, pointing to a byline. "Additional reporting by Catherine Jenkins, Westland Tribune." "A reporter? Someone not from here. Someone who might believe us?" Lily nodded slowly. "The newspaper office has old phone directories. We can look her up." They moved cautiously to the reference section, finding a decade-old media directory. Catherine Jenkins was now listed as editor at the Westland Tribune, 60 miles away. Tommy copied down the number. "My mom," he said suddenly, remembering Jackson's words. "I have to warn her." "They'll be watching your house," Lily reminded him, Tommy's face set with determination. "Then we go to the one person in town they think is no threat at all." "Who?" "My grandfather," Tommy said grimly. "They think his mind is gone, but they're wrong. And I'm betting he knows exactly what happened 30 years ago." As they slipped out the window into the gathering dusk, Tommy clutched the yellowed newspaper article, the first tangible proof that the nightmare was real, and had been unfolding in Pinecrest Valley for decades. Reaching Tommy's house required all their stealth. They crawled through Mrs. Abernathy's vegetable garden, ducked behind Mr. Peterson's woodpile, and finally slipped through the gap in the fence that Tommy had been keeping secret since he was 7. A patrol car idled at the corner, Deputy Jackson visible behind the wheel. The back door, however, remained unwatched. "Stay low," Tommy whispered as they darted across the moonlit yard. Inside, the house was unnervingly quiet. Tommy led Lily to Earl's bedroom, where they found the old man sitting perfectly straight in his armchair, staring out the window. "Grandpa?" Tommy approached cautiously. Sometimes Earl didn't recognize him on bad days. Earl turned slowly. His eyes, usually clouded with confusion, were sharp and clear. "Took you long enough," he said quietly. "They've been looking for you, you know?" Lily blurted, "I may seem absent, but I hear things." Earl gestured for them to close the door. Your mother's been questioned twice, Tommy. They told her you're in trouble for vandalism. That's a lie, Tommy protested. We found a man in the woods. Daniel Wright, Earl finished for him. Michael Wright's son. Tommy and Lily exchanged stunned glances. You knew? Tommy asked. I suspected when he came asking questions 3 weeks ago. Earl's gnarled hands gripped the chair arms. Then he disappeared, just like his father. His father didn't disappear in a mine collapse, did he? Lily asked. Earl's laugh held no humor. There was no collapse. That was the official story. Then what really happened? Tommy pressed. Earl's eyes focused on something distant. I was sheriff. I was supposed to uphold the law, protect people. Shame deepened the lines on his weathered face. I failed. Tell us, Tommy urged gently. The Founders Society. Been around since 1849. I thought it was just old men playing with secrets and handshakes. Earl shook his head. Until Michael Wright came looking into the town's prosperity despite economic downturns everywhere else. He found something, Lily guessed. He found their ceremonial chamber in the abandoned north section of the mine. Evidence of previous sacrifices, Earl's voice caught. I didn't believe him at first. Then I started looking deeper. What happened? Tommy asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. Mayor Reynolds, Frank's father, convinced me to wait until after Founders' Day to make any arrests. Said it would upset the festivities. Self-loathing filled Earl's expression. I agreed. Biggest mistake of my life. By morning, Wright was gone. The mine entrance had collapsed. 7 bodies recovered, including Michael Wright, Tommy said. Earl nodded. Only I found evidence the collapse was deliberate. And Wright's injuries, they weren't consistent with a cave-in. You investigated? Lily asked. Tried to. That's when they came after me. Not directly, I was too public. But pressure. Threats against your grandmother, Tommy. My medication tampered with. Strange episodes where I couldn't remember days at a time. They've been drugging you. Tommy was horrified, on and off for years. More recently, since Daniel Wright arrived. Earl's hand trembled slightly. I've been pouring most of my medicine down the sink for the past week. Clarity's returning, but I have to act confused when they're watching. We need to get help, Lily insisted. Call the state police. Reynolds has connections throughout the state government. That mine produces half the tax revenue for the county. Earl shook his head. We need evidence. Undeniable proof. From his nightstand drawer, Earl withdrew a folded paper, spreading it carefully on his lap. A hand-drawn map, detailed and precise. The mine has 2 sections. The active south face that's still operating, and the sealed north section where the accident happened. His finger traced a line. But there's a 3rd entrance, unknown to most, used by the original founders for their ceremonies, where the prosperity mark is carved. Tommy asked. Earl looked up sharply. You've seen it? On the tree where Daniel is chained. And in an old book, Earl nodded grimly. The mark appears at every sacrifice site. Where's this secret entrance? Lily asked, studying the map. Behind the old processing shed. Looks like solid rock, but there's a passage. Earl indicated a narrow line. And here, his finger tapped a small chamber marked with an X, is where I hid my evidence 30 years ago. Photos, recordings, proof of their crimes. Why didn't you come forward? Tommy asked. Pain flashed across Earl's face. After your grandmother died so suddenly, I lost my courage. Convinced myself I was imagining things. Let them push me into retirement. His eyes met Tommy's. But I never stopped watching. Or planning. A car door slammed outside. Through the window, they saw Sarah arriving home, Sheriff Cooper escorting her to the door. They're watching her, Earl whispered. Using her to draw you out. We have to help Daniel, Tommy insisted. And we will. Earl folded the map, pressing it into Tommy's hand. But first, we need the evidence. Tonight, while they're distracted with the council meeting, how do we get past Deputy Jackson? Lily pointed to the patrol car still visible from the window. Earl's smile held a glimmer of his former authority. Leave that to me. One last act of justice from old Sheriff Miller. Earl's distraction worked perfectly. They watched from the bedroom window as the old man shuffled out the front door in his bathrobe, calling loudly for his long-deceased dog, Rusty. Where are you, boy? Earl's voice carried clearly through the night air. Deputy Jackson's attention shifted immediately. Earl wandered into the street, appearing disoriented and vulnerable. "Mr. Miller!" Jackson emerged from his patrol car. "You shouldn't be out here, sir." "Need to find my dog," Earl insisted. "Have you seen him?" "Brown spots, one ear up." As Jackson gently guided Earl back toward the house, Tommy and Lily slipped out the back door. Earl's map clutched tightly in Tommy's hand, along with another precious item, Earl's heavy-duty service flashlight. The sheriff's star still etched on its side. "That won't last more than 20 minutes, Lily whispered, as they ducked through neighboring yards. "Your mom will call him inside. That's all we need to get clear of town," Tommy replied. They moved swiftly through the shadows, avoiding Main Street, using the creek bed where possible to hide their tracks. The night had grown cold, and Lily shivered in her light jacket. "You okay?" Tommy asked. "Just scared," she admitted. "We're really doing this, breaking into an abandoned mine to find evidence against the most powerful people in town." Tommy's response was to reach for her hand, squeezing it briefly before continuing forward. The gesture said what words couldn't. They were in this together. The North Ridge processing facility loomed ahead, a hulking skeleton of rusted metal and weathered timber. Once the heart of the town's prosperity, it had been officially closed for decades. However, power lines still ran to the building, and fresh tire tracks marked the access road. "Someone's been here recently," Tommy noted, crouching behind a pile of discarded machinery, probably getting ready for their ceremony. Lily's voice tightened. "We have less than 48 hours before Daniel." "We'll stop them," Tommy insisted, studying Earl's map in the beam of the flashlight. "The secret entrance should be behind the main building, where that rock face is." They skirted the perimeter, freezing at every creak and groan from the decaying structure. The rear of the facility backed directly into the mountainside, a sheer rock wall seemingly impenetrable. "There's nothing here," Lily whispered after they'd examined the entire wall. "Must be," Tommy insisted, running his hands over the rough stone. "Grandpa's map is specific." The flashlight beam caught something, a slight discoloration in the rock pattern. Tommy pressed the area, feeling resistance, then a subtle give. A section of rock shifted slightly. "It's fake," he breathed. "Some kind of door or panel." Together they pushed, the camouflaged entrance grinding reluctantly inward. Stale air wafted from the darkness beyond. "Last chance to turn back," Tommy said, though he knew neither of them would. "Your grandfather said the evidence is in the marked chamber," Lily replied, her chin lifting with determination. "Let's find it." The passage narrowed immediately, forcing them to proceed single file. Tommy led, Earl's flashlight illuminating rough-hewn walls slick with moisture. The tunnel sloped downward, taking them deeper into the mountain. "How far?" Lily whispered, her voice echoing slightly. Tommy consulted the map again. "Not far to the junction. Then we follow the right fork to the ceremonial chamber." The passageway eventually opened to a larger tunnel with crude wooden supports, clearly part of the original mine. Railway tracks, rusted but intact, ran along the floor. The air grew colder, heavy with mineral scents and a faint metallic tang. "That smell!" Lily wrinkled her nose. "Iron," Tommy said. "Or blood," Lily finished quietly. The flashlight beam caught something ahead, a symbol carved into a support beam. The prosperity mark, its lines deepened by decades of repeated tracing. "We're on the right path," Tommy whispered. The tunnel branched, and they took the right fork as indicated on the map. The tracks continued, leading toward what had once been the productive heart of the mine. They moved cautiously, aware that each step took them further from safety and deeper into danger. The only sounds were their cautious footsteps and the occasional drip of water from the ceiling. The tunnel widened suddenly into a natural cavern. Tommy's flashlight beam couldn't reach the full extent of the space, but it revealed enough, a roughly circular area with a raised stone platform in the center. Ancient mining equipment rusted around the perimeter, but the platform itself was clean, recently swept. "The ceremonial chamber," Lily breathed. Tommy directed the beam around the walls, searching. "Grandpa said he hid the evidence in a wall cavity near the north corner." They split up, examining the rough stone walls. Lily called out suddenly, "Tommy, here!" In a narrow crevice, she'd found a metal box, an old first aid kit. Its red cross faded but still visible. Tommy worked it free and carried it to the center of the chamber. The lid resisted, then yielded with a metallic protest. Inside lay Earl's insurance policy, a tape recorder with cassettes still inserted, a camera with film, and a leather-bound journal. "Proof," Tommy whispered, holding up the journal, as if in answer. A distant sound echoed through the tunnels, a metal door scraping open, followed by voices and approaching footsteps. "Someone's coming," Lily hissed, panic edging her voice. Tommy quickly closed the box and shoved it into his backpack. "We need to hide." But in the barren chamber, concealment was scarce. The footsteps grew louder, accompanied by the beam of a powerful flashlight sweeping the tunnel they'd just traversed. "This way," Tommy urged, pulling Lily toward a dark recess behind a collapsed ore cart. They squeezed into the tight space just as the newcomers entered the chamber. Tommy switched off Earl's flashlight, plunging them into darkness as unfamiliar voices echoed through the cavern. "Everything's prepared for tomorrow night," a woman's voice announced. "All we need now is our guest of honor. And what about the children?" A man responded, a voice Tommy recognized with a chill as Dr. Chen, Lily's father. Lily's hand clamped over her mouth, stifling a gasp at her father's voice. Tommy felt her trembling against him in their hiding place behind the collapsed ore cart. "The children are not your concern, Doctor," the woman replied coolly. Tommy didn't recognize her voice. Miss Winters, perhaps, the town librarian. "They're witnesses," Dr. Chen argued. Your daughter," Mayor Reynolds interrupted as he entered the chamber, "should have been taught discretion. As you were, when we welcomed you to Pinecrest." Tommy risked a glance around the cart. 5 people stood in the ceremonial chamber. Mayor Reynolds, Dr. Chen, Miss Winters, Deputy Jackson, and Mr. Peterson, the school janitor who had warned them to be careful asking questions. "I agreed to provide medical oversight," Dr. Chen said stiffly, "to ensure the subject doesn't expire prematurely. I never agreed to involve children, yet here we are." Reynolds spread his hands. "Your daughter and the Miller boy have seen right. They've been asking questions, digging through archives." "Frank," Ms. Winters cautioned, "the preparations." "Of course." Reynolds turned businesslike. Peterson checked the restraints. "Jackson, prepare the altar. Dr. Chen, your medical supplies are adequate." Dr. Chen nodded reluctantly. "I still maintain this is necessary," Reynolds finished firmly. "As it has been every 30 years since 1849. You enjoy your position here, your standing. That comes with a price. The prosperity ritual has never failed," Ms. Winters added, running her hand lovingly over the stone altar. "One life freely given, freely." Dr. Chen scoffed. "The man is chained to a tree. His ancestor understood the necessity," Reynolds countered. "Thomas Wright was one of the original 3 who discovered it." Tommy and Lily exchanged confused glances in the darkness. "Discovered what exactly?" Dr. Chen asked, echoing their question. Reynolds hesitated, then gestured to Ms. Winters, who produced an ornate key from around her neck. She approached the altar and inserted the key into a previously invisible seam. A compartment opened within the stone. "The source," Reynolds said reverently, as Ms. Winters removed a small object and placed it on the altar. Tommy strained to see. It appeared to be a small figurine, perhaps 6 inches tall, crafted from gold. Even in the dim light, it seemed to possess an unnatural gleam. "The original founders discovered it with the first gold seam," Ms. Winters explained, her tone suggesting she was reciting sacred text. "They learned its price and its reward. A life willingly sacrificed opens new veins of gold," Reynolds continued. "Prosperity follows, but only for 30 years. Then another sacrifice must be made. You can't seriously believe," Dr. Chen began. "Believe," Reynolds laughed. "Look around you, Doctor. This town thrived during the Depression, when others starved. We survived the mining crash of the 80s, when every other operation in the state closed. After each sacrifice, new gold appears exactly where it shouldn't be. geologically impossible, yet undeniably present. Deputy Jackson finished arranging tools on the altar, a ceremonial knife, rope, and what appeared to be a chalice. "Tomorrow night," Reynolds declared, "we continue the tradition. Daniel Wright's blood will ensure 30 more years of prosperity. And the children?" Dr. Chen pressed Reynolds' side. "We'll find them, contain the situation, and if we don't," Ms. Winters asked, "then the ceremony may require additional participants." Reynolds replied coldly. Lily stiffened beside Tommy. Her father's face had paled. "That wasn't our agreement," Dr. Chen protested. "Circumstances change," Reynolds shrugged. "Now let's finish the preparations and return before we're missed. The council meeting will be ending soon." As the group worked, Tommy noticed Mr. Peterson moving toward their hiding place to retrieve something. His weathered face turned directly toward them, eyes widening slightly as he spotted them in the shadows. For a breathless moment, Tommy was certain he would expose them. Instead, Peterson deliberately knocked over a lantern, the crash echoing through the chamber. "Clumsy fool." Reynolds snapped. "Sorry," Peterson mumbled, positioning himself between the cart and the others as he cleaned up the mess, effectively screening Tommy and Lily from view. The group finished their preparations and gathered their equipment. Miss Winters carefully returned the golden idol to its compartment within the altar. "Remember," Reynolds addressed them as they prepared to leave. "Tomorrow night, midnight, everyone in position." As they filed out, Dr. Chen lingered slightly behind. Once the others had moved ahead down the tunnel, he quickly slipped something from his pocket and placed it on a shelf near the chamber entrance. Then he hurried to catch up. When their footsteps faded completely, Tommy and Lily emerged from hiding, muscles cramped from holding still so long. "My father," Lily whispered, shock and betrayal evident in her voice. "He's part of it." "Maybe not willingly," Tommy offered, remembering Dr. Chen's obvious reluctance. They approached the item he'd left behind, a small flashlight and a folded note. Lily opened it with trembling fingers. "Lily, if you find this, take the south tunnel out. Tell no one what you've seen. Keep away from town until Sunday." "I'm sorry." "It's his handwriting," she confirmed, voice breaking. "He knows we're here," Tommy realized. "And Peterson saw us, but didn't tell. Not everyone agrees with Reynolds," Lily concluded, pocketing her father's note. Tommy approached the altar, curious about the object that seemed central to the ceremony. Using Earl's flashlight, he located the seam where Ms. Winters had inserted the key. "We need to see what they're really worshipping," he decided, pulling out his pocket knife. With careful maneuvering, he managed to trigger the mechanism. The compartment slid open, revealing the golden idol, a crude humanoid figure with an elongated head and disturbing proportions. Ancient symbols, similar to but distinct from the prosperity mark, covered its base. "It's old," Lily whispered. "Really old. And not Christian or anything I recognize," Tommy added, carefully lifting it. Despite its small size, the idol was surprisingly heavy. An inscription on the bottom caught his attention, words in an unfamiliar language, but below them, scratched more recently, "Blood opens the earth. One sacrifice or many? Choose wisely." The sound of distant voices echoing through the tunnels startled them. "Someone was returning. We need to go," Lily urged, tugging Tommy's sleeve. Tommy hesitated, then quickly replaced the idol and closed the compartment. They had the evidence in Earl's box, the journal, tape, and camera. That would have to be enough. As they slipped into the south tunnel following Dr. Chen's instruction, Tommy's mind raced with questions. A sacrificial cult was operating in Pinecrest Valley, but its origins seemed to reach beyond the town's founders to something far older and darker, something that had demanded blood for gold for generations. The south tunnel extended deep into the mountain, its path meandering in a gradual descent. Tommy and Lily moved as quickly as they dared, Earl's flashlight casting jerky shadows as they ran. "Do you think they heard us?" Lily whispered, glancing back nervously. "Don't know," Tommy replied. "But we need to get this evidence out and find help." The tunnel forked unexpectedly, neither path marked on Earl's map. They hesitated at the junction, left or right. Lily asked. A distant shout echoed behind them, followed by the beam of a powerful flashlight sweeping the tunnel walls. "They know we're here," Tommy hissed. "Quick, right!" They sprinted down the right-hand passage, which narrowed significantly. The ceiling dropped lower, forcing them to crouch as they ran. Tommy's backpack, heavy with Earl's evidence box, thumped painfully against his spine. The passage ended abruptly at a metal door, rusted but intact. Tommy pushed against it, but it refused to budge. "It's locked from the other side," he groaned. "We're trapped," Lily realized, panic edging into her voice. Footsteps approached, accompanied by Reynolds' voice. "Check every passage." They couldn't have gotten far. Tommy swept the flashlight around desperately, seeking an alternative escape. The beam caught something dark pooled against the wall. Fabric. A bundle of black cloth. "What's this?" He grabbed it, unfolding what proved to be a ceremonial robe, similar to what they'd seen the adults preparing in the chamber. The prosperity mark was embroidered on its chest in gold thread. "Put it on," Lily suggested suddenly. "If they see you, they might think you're one of them in the dark." It was adult-sized, draping ridiculously over Tommy's small frame. But he pulled the hood up just as flashlight beams appeared at the junction. "You two—" "Check the left fork," Reynolds commanded. "Jackson, with me." Tommy frantically looked for somewhere to hide Lily, but the passage offered no concealment. Making a split-second decision, he shoved Earl's evidence box into her hands and whispered, "Get down, curl up against the wall. I'll try to distract them." Lily nodded, tucking herself into the smallest possible shape in the corner, clutching the metal box. Tommy positioned himself in front of her, the oversized robe spreading enough to cast her in shadow. Reynolds and Jackson rounded the corner, powerful flashlights sweeping the passage. "Dead end," Jackson observed. Light landing on Tommy's robed figure. Tommy kept his head down, hood concealing his face, and mumbled in the deepest voice he could manage. "Nothing here." For a moment it seemed to work. Reynolds began to turn away, then paused, frowning. "Peterson, is that you? What are you doing down here?" Tommy realized his mistake too late. The robe's sleeve had ridden up, revealing his small hand clutching Earl's flashlight. "It's the boy." Jackson lunged forward, grabbing Tommy's arm. Reynolds swept back his hood, revealing Tommy's terrified face. Well, one problem solved." "Run, Lily!" Tommy shouted, struggling against Jackson's grip. Reynolds' flashlight found Lily scrambling to her feet. "And the Chen girl, too. How convenient." Lily bolted toward the junction, but her path was blocked by Dr. Chen and Ms. Winters, returning from the left passage. Dr. Chen's face went ashen when he saw his daughter. "Lily, what are you doing here?" "Dad," she choked, backing away. "How could you be part of this?" "It's complicated," he began, reaching for her. "You're going to sacrifice Daniel," she accused, clutching the evidence box to her chest. "And now us too?" "No one's sacrificing children," Dr. Chen stated firmly, looking at Reynolds. "Of course not," Reynolds agreed smoothly. "But we do need to ensure their discretion." Jackson had secured Tommy's arms behind his back with plastic zip ties. Tommy struggled uselessly, his eyes fixed on the evidence box Lily held. "What's in the box, dear?" Ms. Winters asked with false sweetness. "Nothing," Lily lied, backing away until she hit the tunnel wall. Reynolds approached her slowly, like one might a frightened animal. "Give it to me and no one gets hurt." "Don't," Tommy warned. "It's evidence of what they did to Daniel's father. What your grandfather was investigating," he added, looking directly at Ms. Winters. Her composed expression faltered. "My grandfather? Sheriff Peavy wasn't investigating anything." "Earl Miller was," Tommy countered. "Until they started drugging him to make him forget." Dr. Chen's head snapped toward Reynolds. "You've been drugging Earl?" "That wasn't part of our arrangement. There have been many arrangements over the years," Reynolds dismissed. "All necessary." Jackson reached for the box, but Lily ducked under his arm, running toward her father. "Dad, please help us." Dr. Chen hesitated, torn between his daughter and his co-conspirators. That moment of indecision cost them all. Lily tripped on the uneven floor, the box flying from her hands and crashing open against the tunnel wall. Its contents scattered across the ground. Reynolds seized Earl's journal while Jackson grabbed the tape recorder and camera. Lily scrambled to recover something, anything, but Miss Winters caught her arm. "You've put us in a very difficult position," Reynolds told the children, flipping through the journal. "Very difficult indeed. The ceremony requires one willing sacrifice," Miss Winters reminded him. "Daniel Wright qualifies through his bloodline, but these children are witnesses," Reynolds finished grimly. "And a complication we don't need with less than 24 hours remaining." Dr. Chen stepped between Reynolds and the children. "We agreed, no harm to innocents. That's been the rule for generations. Rules change when survival is threatened," Reynolds replied coldly. "We have a decision to make." Tommy met Lily's frightened eyes across the tunnel. They had found the truth, only to be captured before they could reveal it. Now they were at the mercy of people who had maintained their secret through murder for almost 2 centuries. "Take them to join our guest of honor," Reynolds ordered. "We'll decide their fate at midnight tomorrow as part of the ceremony." Sarah Miller knew something was terribly wrong when Tommy didn't come home for dinner. The half-truth she'd told Sheriff Cooper, that Tommy was at Lily's house, had bought her time. But her mother's instinct screamed danger. When Dr. Chen called asking about Lily, Sarah's worry crystallized into fear. Now close to midnight, she paced her kitchen while Earl sat at the table, more alert than she'd seen him in months. "They have the children," Earl said grimly. "Reynolds and his cult." "We don't know that," Sarah replied, though she feared he was right. "I gave Tommy my map," Earl continued as if she hadn't spoken, "to find my evidence." "Evidence of what exactly?" Sarah demanded, her patience fraying. "You've been talking in circles for hours." Earl met her gaze directly. "Evidence of murder, Sarah. Ritual sacrifice that's been happening in this town every 30 years since its founding." His voice was steady, clear. "I tried to stop it 30 years ago, failed, got your mother killed." Sarah froze. "Mom died of a stroke." "After Reynolds threatened her," Earl corrected. "After they started tampering with my medication. Making me forget, making me doubt what I'd seen." A sharp knock interrupted them. Sarah peered through the curtains to see Sheriff Cooper on the porch, alone. "It's Cooper," she whispered. Earl straightened. "Let him in." "Dad, let him in," Earl repeated firmly. "It's time he chose a side." Sarah reluctantly opened the door. Cooper entered, removing his hat, his face grave. "Sarah, Earl," he nodded to each. "I need to ask you some direct questions about Tommy's whereabouts." "We don't know where he is," Sarah admitted, fear evident in her voice. "I think you do," Cooper countered. "Just like Dr. Chen knows more about Lily than he's saying." Earl stood slowly, steadier than he'd been in years. "Alan, sit down," Cooper hesitated, then complied. Something in the old man's tone, compelling obedience. "Tommy and Lily found Daniel Wright," Earl stated bluntly. Cooper's expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped his hat. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't insult me," Earl snapped. "I was sheriff when you were writing parking tickets. I trained you, taught you what justice meant." He fixed Cooper with a hard stare. "Before Frank Reynolds corrupted you, Earl, your condition is partially your doing," Earl finished. "The special supplements you've been adding to my medication for years," Cooper flinched. "That was Reynolds' idea." "And you went along with it," Earl said, disgust evident. "Just like you've gone along with everything since you took my badge." A heavy silence filled the kitchen. Sarah looked between the two men, sensing a crucial turning point. "Where are the children, Alan?" Sarah asked quietly. "I don't know," Cooper replied, but his eyes shifted away. "The mine," Earl declared confidently. "The ceremonial chamber." With Daniel Wright, Cooper's head snapped up. How do you—" "I've known about that chamber for 30 years, Earl said. "Ever since Michael Wright disappeared. I've played the doddering old fool while collecting every scrap of information about Reynolds and his Founders Society." "It's not that simple," Cooper protested. "The town depends on human sacrifice," Sarah interjected, horrified comprehension dawning. "That's what this is about?" "Prosperity," Cooper corrected weakly. "For everyone." Earl reached into his pocket and placed something on the table, his tarnished sheriff's badge, preserved all these years. "I compromised once," Earl said quietly. Let Reynolds delay my investigation until after Founder's Day. By morning, Michael Wright was dead, and 7 accidental deaths covered the crime. His eyes bored into Cooper's. I've regretted it every day since. What do you want from me? Cooper asked, his composure cracking. The truth, Sarah insisted. And help saving my son. Cooper ran a hand over his face. The ceremony is tomorrow at midnight. They have Wright chained in the chamber. If the children were caught at the mine... He trailed off, the implication clear. Reynolds wouldn't hurt children, Cooper added, though uncertainty tinged his voice. Wouldn't he? Earl challenged. When his precious ceremony is threatened, when his power is questioned? He pushed the badge toward Cooper. There was a time you wore this for the right reasons. Cooper stared at the badge, conflict evident in his expression. Choose, Alan, Earl pressed. Justice or power? The law or Reynolds? Right now, Sarah leaned forward. Please, Tommy is all I have. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence. Finally, Cooper picked up the badge, turning it over in his hands. The children were caught in the mine tonight, he admitted. Reynolds has them with Wright. The council is divided. Some want to let them go after the ceremony. Others, he swallowed. Others are suggesting 3 sacrifices would ensure prosperity for decades. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Reynolds has most of the deputies with him, Cooper continued. They're guarding all entrances to the mine, but not all of them are loyal to him, Earl guessed. Cooper nodded slowly. Peyton's uncomfortable with the whole thing. Peterson's been subtly undermining Reynolds for years. And you? Sarah asked directly. Where do you stand? Cooper looked down at the badge in his palm, then back at Earl, his mentor, the man who taught him right from wrong before ambition clouded his judgment. I've been blind, Cooper said finally. Or worse, willfully ignorant. Telling myself it was just one life every 30 years for the good of many. He closed his fingers around the badge. But children, that crosses a line I never agreed to. Earl nodded, a glimmer of pride breaking through his stern expression. Then help us stop this. Once and for all. It won't be easy, Cooper warned. Reynolds has believers throughout the county. And tomorrow is Founder's Day. The town will be full of people. Good, Sarah said with sudden fierceness. See, witnesses. The one thing Reynolds and his cult have avoided for generations. Cooper stood, decision made. I'll contact Peyton and Peterson. Get as much information as possible about guard rotations. I'm coming with you to the mine, Earl stated firmly. Dad, you can't, Sarah began. My grandson. Earl cut her off. My responsibility. The years seemed to fall away from him as purpose straightened his spine. One last act of justice from old Sheriff Miller, Cooper nodded, a plan forming. Reynolds won't expect resistance from within his inner circle. That's our advantage. As they prepared to leave, Sarah retrieved her late husband's hunting rifle from the closet. Both men looked at her in surprise. My son, she said simply, checking the weapon with practiced ease. No one's sacrificing him to any gold-hungry cult. Not while I'm breathing. Earl smiled grimly, recognizing the Miller family determination that had skipped a generation to manifest in both Sarah and Tommy. Time to end this, he declared. For Michael Wright, for Daniel, and for every victim of the Founders Society since 1849. Tommy tested his restraints for the 100th time, the rope biting into his wrists. Across the ceremonial chamber, Lily sat similarly bound, her face streaked with dirt and dried tears. Between them, Daniel Wright leaned against a support beam, his condition noticeably worse after days of captivity. They'll kill us all, won't they? Tommy asked quietly. Daniel's laugh held no humor. The prosperity mark demands blood. When sacrifice was tradition, 3, he shook his head. Reynolds will claim it's necessary. My dad won't let them hurt me. Lily insisted, though her voice wavered. Your father is part of this. Tommy reminded her gently. Not willingly, Daniel countered. I've watched them. Jen, Peterson, even Peyton. They follow out of fear or coercion, not belief. A distant rumble shook dust from the ceiling. The mine groaned, timbers creaking ominously. That's the 3rd time, Lily noted. Is the mine unstable? These passages have stood for over a century, Daniel said. But they've been increasing activity, preparing for the ceremony. Disturbing things better left alone. Tommy scooted closer to Daniel. What is that golden idol thing? The one they lock in the altar. Daniel hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. According to my research, it predates white settlement. Indigenous people considered this mountain sacred or cursed. The original founders didn't discover gold here. They stole it, along with the idol from the native population they massacred. The real founding of Pinecrest, Tommy realized. Blood opened the first gold vein, Daniel confirmed. The founders, including my ancestor, interpreted it as a sign. A bargain, blood for gold. Another rumble shook the chamber, stronger this time. A section of wall near the altar cracked, revealing a cavity behind it. That's not supposed to happen, Lily observed nervously. Tommy stared at the widening crack. Something was visible in the newly exposed space, flat, carved stone. There's something in there, he whispered. Before they could investigate further, footsteps approached. Mayor Reynolds entered, followed by Dr. Chen and Deputy Jackson. Our guests are awake, Reynolds observed coldly. Good. There are preparations to discuss. Dr. Chen moved immediately to Lily. Are you hurt? His fingers gently examined the rope around her wrists. You're going to let them kill us, Lily accused, turning her face away. No one is killing children, Dr. Chen stated firmly, looking directly at Reynolds. That decision isn't entirely yours, Reynolds replied. The council is divided. Some feel 3 sacrifices would ensure prosperity for a century, not just 3 decades. The tradition calls for 1 willing sacrifice from Wright's bloodline, Dr. Chen argued. These children have nothing to do with it. They've seen too much, Jackson interjected. They know names, details. They're children. Dr. Chen's voice rose. Reynolds held up a hand for silence. A decision will be made at the final council meeting just before midnight. He approached Tommy, studying him with clinical detachment. Your grandfather is asking questions again. Seems his mind has suddenly cleared. Tommy kept his expression neutral, though hope flared within. Grandpa Earl was lucid and aware. Strange timing, Reynolds continued, almost as if he's stopped taking his medication, or someone stopped tampering with it, Daniel suggested boldly. Reynolds ignored him, focusing on Tommy. Where is the map he gave you? The one that led you here? I don't know what you're talking about, Tommy lied. Reynolds sighed. Loyalty is admirable but misplaced. Your grandfather couldn't stop this 30 years ago. He can't stop it now. Another tremor shook the chamber, stronger than before. Dust and small rocks showered from the ceiling. The crack in the wall widened further, revealing more of the stone tablet within. What's happening? Jackson asked nervously. Settling, Reynolds dismissed, though concern crossed his face. This mountain has stood for millennia. It'll hold for 1 more night. He turned to Dr. Chen. Examine Wright. Ensure he'll survive until the ceremony. The sacrifice must be alive when it begins. As Dr. Chen reluctantly approached Daniel, Reynolds addressed Jackson. Double the guards at all entrances. No one enters without my explicit permission. He glanced at the children. And secure these 2 separately. No talking. Jackson grabbed Tommy roughly, dragging him toward a side tunnel. As he was pulled away, Tommy glimpsed Dr. Chen, slipping something into Lily's pocket while pretending to check her restraints. The chamber shook again. The crack in the wall expanded dramatically, and the stone tablet Tommy had spotted shifted, sliding partially into view. Ancient carvings covered its surface, symbols similar to the prosperity mark, but older, more primal. What is that? Reynolds demanded, approaching the widening fissure. Dr. Chen glanced over. Looks indigenous, probably from the tribe that originally inhabited this area. The people your founders murdered, Daniel added pointedly. Reynolds ignored him, reaching into the cavity to examine the tablet. As his fingers touched the carved surface, the most violent tremor yet shook the chamber. Supports groaned, and a large section of ceiling collapsed barely 3 feet from where Reynolds stood. This place is coming down, Jackson shouted. Impossible, Reynolds muttered, but his confidence was visibly shaken. The ceremony has always stabilized the mountain, unless, Daniel suggested, the mountain itself is rejecting what you're planning. Reynolds glared at him. Superstitious nonsense. No more superstitious than sacrificing people to a golden idol for prosperity, Tommy countered boldly. Reynolds turned his cold gaze on Tommy. Get them secured, now! The ceremony proceeds as planned, regardless of these disruptions. As Jackson dragged Tommy from the chamber, the boy caught one last glimpse of the exposed tablet. Even from a distance, he could see that the carvings depicted figures in a circle around a central idol, not in worship, but in what appeared to be a containment ritual. The ancestors hadn't been worshipping the golden idol at all. They had been imprisoning it. Night had fallen over Pinecrest Valley when the rescue party gathered at the edge of town. Sheriff Cooper's patrol car was parked with lights off behind the abandoned gas station, where he conferred with Officer Peyton and Mr. Peterson. Reynolds has 8 armed men guarding the mine entrances, Cooper explained, pointing to locations on a rough map spread across his hood. 4 at the main entrance, 2 at the old shaft, and 2 patrolling the perimeter. What about the secret entrance? Earl asked, leaning heavily on his cane. Unguarded, Peterson confirmed. They don't think anyone else knows about it. Sarah checked the hunting rifle again. How many people are in on this cult? The inner circle is 12, Cooper replied. The full Founders Society includes about 30 townspeople, but most don't know the true nature of the prosperity ritual. They think it's symbolic. And the children? Sarah pressed. Where are they being held? Cooper and Peterson exchanged glances. The ceremonial chamber initially, Peterson said, but Reynolds ordered them separated after the tremors started. Tremors? Earl asked sharply. The mine's becoming unstable, Peyton explained. Never seen anything like it. Focused around the ceremonial chamber just since they brought the children in, Peterson added meaningfully. Sarah's eyes narrowed. How do we get to them? Cooper outlined the plan. Peyton and I will create a distraction at the main entrance. Peterson knows where they're holding the boy. He'll take you to him, Sarah. Earl, you stay with the vehicle as lookout. Like hell, Earl growled. My grandson's in there. Dad, you can barely walk, Sarah objected. I can shoot, Earl countered. And I know that mine better than anyone. I investigated every inch 30 years ago. Cooper recognized the determination in the old sheriff's eyes. Fine. Peterson will take you both through the secret entrance. But Earl, his expression softened slightly, pace yourself. We might need your experience before this is over. What about Lily? Sarah asked. Dr. Chen is with her, Peterson revealed. He's been playing along, but he's looking for a chance to get her out. I've arranged a signal. Can we trust him? Sarah questioned. He's part of this. Not by choice, Peterson said grimly. Reynolds has something on most of us. For Chen, it was his medical license. For me, my son's college scholarship. And for you, Cooper? Earl asked pointedly. Cooper's jaw tightened. Ambition. Plain and simple. Reynolds promised me the state police nomination if I protected town interests. Self-disgust colored his words. Took me too long to realize what that really meant. A text message chimed on Peterson's phone. He checked it quickly. It's time. The final council meeting has started in the upper chamber. Security will be focused there. What about Daniel Wright? Sarah asked. Still in the ceremonial chamber, Peterson replied. Heavily guarded. We get the children first, then Wright if possible. They moved to their positions. Sarah and Earl following Peterson toward the hidden entrance, while Cooper and Peyton headed for their distraction at the main gate. Peterson led them along the same path Tommy and Lily had taken, through the abandoned processing facility to the camouflaged rock door. Inside, he provided small headlamps. Radio silence from here, he whispered. Tommy's being held in an old supply room off the south tunnel. They proceeded cautiously through the eerily quiet passages. Twice the ground trembled beneath them, dislodging small stones from the ceiling. These tremors are getting worse, Sarah whispered. It's the mountain, Earl replied cryptically. It knows. Peterson signaled them to stop as voices approached. They pressed into an alcove as 2 robed figures passed, discussing the instability. Never happened before a ceremony, one was saying. Reynolds thinks it's because we're breaking tradition with multiple sacrifices. Or maybe sacrificing children is just wrong, the other replied, voice laden with doubt. Once they'd passed, Peterson led them deeper into the mine. The air grew heavier, tinged with an odd metallic scent. Eventually, they reached a small wooden door with a padlock. "Tommy's in there," Peterson confirmed, producing a key. "One guard inside." Sarah raised her rifle. "I'll handle him." Peterson unlocked the door as quietly as possible. It swung open to reveal a small storage room illuminated by a single lantern. Tommy sat against the far wall, hands bound. Deputy Jackson turned at their entrance, reaching for his weapon. Sarah's rifle barrel pressed against his chest. "Don't," she warned, voice deadly calm. Jackson froze, recognizing the look in her eyes, a mother protecting her child. "Mom!" Tommy's face lit with desperate hope. "Hands on your head," Sarah ordered Jackson, who complied immediately. Earl moved to Tommy, knife ready to cut his bonds. "You okay, son?" "Grandpa, you came?" Tommy's voice broke with emotion. "I knew you would." "Always," Earl replied simply, slicing through the ropes. Peterson secured Jackson with his own handcuffs. "We need to move. Get to Lily and get out." "No," Tommy said firmly, rubbing his chafed wrists. "We can't leave yet. Daniel's still down there, and Reynolds is planning the ceremony for midnight." "Tommy, this isn't your fight anymore," Sarah began. "It is," Tommy insisted. "And there's more. The golden idol they worship. It's not what they think. The indigenous people weren't worshipping it. They were containing it." The tablet showed. A violent tremor interrupted him, strong enough to crack the stone floor beneath them. Dust showered from the ceiling as support timbers groaned. "This whole place is coming down," Peterson warned. "Lily's in the eastern tunnel," Tommy said urgently. "Her dad's with her. He gave her something. I saw him slip it into her pocket." Earl helped Tommy to his feet. "Let's find her, then get clear of this mountain before it buries everyone." "What about the evidence?" Tommy asked. "Earl's box with the journal and tape?" "Reynolds has it," Peterson confirmed. "In the upper chamber with the council." Sarah squeezed Tommy's shoulder. "One problem at a time. First Lily, then Daniel, if possible. The evidence won't matter if we don't get you kids out alive." Another tremor, stronger than before, rattled the walls. A distant crashing sound echoed through the tunnels. "That was a collapse," Peterson said grimly. "We're running out of time." As they moved into the corridor, Tommy explained the tremors. They started when Reynolds touched the tablet. "It's like the mountain is fighting back against what they're planning," Earl nodded, a strange light in his eyes. "Some evils run deeper than human wrongdoing. This place has known blood sacrifice for too long." They proceeded cautiously toward the eastern tunnel, guided by Peterson's knowledge and Tommy's determination. While behind them, the mountain continued its ominous rumbling, as if awakening from a long, troubled sleep. The eastern tunnel twisted deeper into the mountain, support beams creaking ominously with each tremor. Tommy led the way alongside Peterson, their headlamps cutting thin beams through the dusty air. Sarah and Earl followed, with the subdued Deputy Jackson bringing up the rear. "Lily should be in a storage alcove around the next bend," Peterson whispered, consulting a small mind map. Dr. Chen convinced Reynolds to let him examine her alone. "Can we trust Chen?" Sarah asked again. "He loves his daughter," Tommy answered simply. "He didn't want any part of this." Peterson's emergency radio crackled suddenly, making them all jump. Cooper's voice came through, distorted by static. "Distraction in progress." "Main entrance." "Reynolds is moving the ceremony up. What's happening?" Earl demanded as Peterson adjusted the frequency. "Cooper and Peyton created a diversion," Peterson explained. "But something's gone wrong. Reynolds must suspect a rescue attempt." The radio crackled again. "Multiple. Lapsing tunnels. Evacuating upper levels. Ceremony. 15 minutes. The ceremony wasn't supposed to start until midnight," Tommy said, checking his watch. "It's barely 10. The tremors are forcing his hand," Peterson replied grimly. "If the mountain's becoming unstable, he'll want to complete the sacrifice before it's too late." They reached the storage alcove, finding the door ajar. Inside, illuminated by a single battery lantern, Dr. Chen was helping Lily to her feet, her restraints already removed. "Dad!" Lily cried when she saw Tommy rushing to embrace him. "They're moving the ceremony up," Peterson informed Chen urgently. "Reynolds is clearing the upper levels." Chen nodded, his face grim. "I heard." We need to get the children out immediately. He turned to his daughter. Lily, did you listen to the recording I gave you? Lily produced a tiny tape recorder from her pocket. Yes, it's all here. Your testimony about Reynolds, the cult, everything. Evidence, Earl said with satisfaction. More than that, Chen explained quickly. Insurance. I sent copies to colleagues outside Pinecrest, with instructions to release everything to authorities if anything happens to Lily or me. Another violent tremor shook the tunnel, longer than previous ones. Dust and small rocks showered from the ceiling. We need to move, Sarah urged. Get the children to safety, then come back for Daniel if possible. No, Tommy and Lily said simultaneously. They're taking him to the ceremonial chamber now, Lily explained. If we leave, he dies, and it won't stop with him, Tommy added. The tablet I saw, it warned that blood sacrifices don't appease the idol. They strengthen it, Chen nodded reluctantly. The boy may be right. I've studied the historical records as part of my initiation. Every sacrifice has been followed by prosperity, yes, but also by increased accidents, mental illness, suicide. The town benefits materially, but suffers in other ways, evil taking different forms of payment. Earl murmured. Peterson's radio crackled again. Cooper's voice barely audible through increasing static. Chamber secured. Moving right now. Reynolds has the idol. The static gets worse near the ceremonial chamber, Chen observed. Some kind of electromagnetic interference. It's always been that way, but it's much stronger tonight. Tommy looked at the adults, determination hardening his young face. I'm going to help Daniel. We both are, Lily affirmed, standing beside him. Sarah started to protest, but Earl placed a restraining hand on her arm. They found him. They've earned the right to see this through. They're children, Sarah objected. Children who've shown more courage than most adults in this town, Earl countered. Including me 30 years ago. Peterson checked his weapon and the increasingly useless radio. If we're doing this, we need a plan. Reynolds will have armed guards. I count 4 of us against at least 8 of them, Sarah calculated. 5, Chen corrected firmly. I'm no longer sitting on the fence, not with my daughter's life at stake. 6, came a new voice from the tunnel entrance. Sheriff Cooper appeared, uniform dusty and a cut bleeding above his eye. Peyton securing the exit route. The distraction worked? Peterson asked. Cooper nodded grimly. Too well. Several tunnels collapsed when Reynolds ordered the idol moved. 3 council members are trapped in the upper level. He looked at the assembled group. Reynolds is unstable. Convinced the tremors are a sign the mountain demands the sacrifice immediately. How many with him in the ceremonial chamber? Earl asked. 4 armed deputies, including Jackson here, Ms. Winters, and Reynolds himself. Another tremor, the strongest yet, shook the tunnel violently. A support beam cracked ominously. This whole place is coming down, Sarah observed fearfully. Not before Reynolds completes his ceremony, Cooper warned. He's had that knife in his family for generations, passed down from the original founders. We need to split up, Earl decided, the old sheriff taking command naturally. Cooper, Sarah, Peterson, create a distraction at the main chamber entrance. Chen, the children, and I will use the maintenance shaft that overlooks the chamber. Too dangerous, Sarah protested. Every option is dangerous now, Earl replied calmly. But if Reynolds completes the sacrifice, more lives will be lost. Today, and for generations to come. Tommy stepped forward. I know how to stop it. All eyes turned to him. The tablet showed people forming a circle around the idol, he explained. Not worshipping it, containing it. I think the original ritual wasn't sacrifice at all. It was imprisonment. Lily nodded in understanding. That's why the tremors started when Reynolds moved the idol from the altar. It's meant to stay contained. Chen considered this. It makes sense. Indigenous cultures often created rituals to contain malevolent forces, not worship them. Then our plan is clear, Earl concluded. Stop the sacrifice, return the idol to its containment, and get everyone out before the mountain collapses. He looked at each determined face. Ready? No one objected, not even Sarah, who merely checked her rifle and nodded resolutely. Tommy, Earl said, placing a hand on his grandson's shoulder. Lead the way." As they moved toward the ceremonial chamber, the emergency radio emitted one final burst of static before going completely silent, as if whatever force dwelled within the mountain had awoken fully and was now aware of their presence. The maintenance shaft was barely more than a crawl space, forcing them to advance on hands and knees. Tommy led, followed by Lily, Dr. Chen, and Earl, whose labored breathing betrayed the effort it cost him. "Just ahead," Tommy whispered, pointing to a faint glow. "There's an observation platform the original miners used to monitor blasting." They emerged onto a narrow ledge overlooking the ceremonial chamber, concealed in shadow. Below, an unsettling tableau unfolded. Daniel Wright knelt at the center of the chamber, hands bound behind his back. Mayor Reynolds stood before the stone altar, now draped in black cloth emblazoned with the prosperity mark in gold thread. Ms. Winters arranged ceremonial items, a chalice, candles, and a wooden box containing the golden idol, which emitted a faint, unnatural glow. Armed deputies stood at each entrance, faces grim. The atmosphere was tense, all pretense of civic duty replaced by naked desperation. "The tremors grow stronger," Reynolds announced, his usual composure cracking. "The mountain demands its due, perhaps angered by our delay. Or by what you're planning," Daniel suggested defiantly. "Blood sacrifice was never the original purpose of that idol." Reynolds ignored him, removing an ornate dagger from a velvet-lined case. Its blade was obsidian, handle carved from yellowed bone. "This has been in my family since 1849. My ancestor used it for the first sacrifice, as I will use it for you." "And the children?" Ms. Winters asked. "Are we proceeding with all three?" Tommy felt Lily tense beside him. "We'll see if one suffices," Reynolds replied, testing the dagger's edge with his thumb. "The Wright bloodline has special significance. If the tremors continue after his sacrifice, we'll consider additional offerings." Earl's hand found Tommy's shoulder, squeezing reassuringly. "Cooper's team should be in position by now," he whispered. As if on cue, a commotion erupted at the main entrance. Sheriff Cooper's voice rang out, ordering everyone to stand down. Gunfire followed, echoing deafeningly through the chamber. Reynolds reacted instantly, grabbing Daniel and pressing the dagger to his throat. "Stay back!" he shouted as Cooper appeared in the entrance, weapon drawn. "It's over, Frank," Cooper called. "The state police have been notified. Peterson's leading them in right now." "You fool," Reynolds snarled. "Without the sacrifice, this whole valley dies. 30 years of prosperity gone." "No one else needs to die," Cooper countered, advancing slowly. "Put down the knife." The standoff continued as Sarah and Peterson appeared behind Cooper. Both armed, Ms. Winters backed toward the altar, positioning herself protectively before the golden idol. "Now," Earl whispered. While they're distracted, Tommy and Lily began descending a rusty maintenance ladder, moving as quietly as possible. Dr. Chen followed, with Earl struggling behind them. Reynolds noticed the movement too late. "Above you!" he shouted to his deputies. Chaos erupted. Cooper fired a warning shot as deputies raised their weapons toward the maintenance platform. In the confusion, Daniel drove his shoulder into Reynolds, throwing him off balance. The ceremonial dagger clattered to the stone floor near the altar. Reynolds scrambled after it, but Tommy reached it first, snatching it up as he leapt from the final rung of the ladder. "Tommy, the idol!" Lily shouted, pointing to the wooden box Ms. Winters was now clutching to her chest. Reynolds regained his footing, lunging toward Tommy. "Give me the dagger, boy." "This was never meant for killing," Tommy declared, backing away. The tablet showed it cutting bonds, not throats. A violent tremor shook the chamber, more powerful than any before. Support beams cracked, and chunks of ceiling crashed down around them. Everyone staggered, struggling to maintain balance. "It's coming down," Peterson shouted. "Everyone out." In the confusion, Ms. Winters fled toward a side passage, still clutching the box containing the idol. Lily pursued her, dodging falling debris. "Lily!" Dr. Chen called in alarm, following his daughter. Tommy hesitated, torn between helping Daniel and pursuing the idol. Daniel made the decision for him. "The idol!" Daniel shouted as Sarah cut his bonds. It has to be returned to containment. Tommy nodded and sprinted after Lily and Ms. Winters, ceremonial dagger still clutched in his hand. Behind him, Cooper and Sarah helped Daniel toward the exit, while Peterson covered their retreat. Earl remained in the chamber, confronting Reynolds. "It ends here, Frank. 30 years too late, but it ends." "You don't understand," Reynolds pleaded, his megalomaniacal facade crumbling. "The prosperity was never worth the cost," Earl finished grimly. Another violent tremor emphasized his words, as more ceiling collapsed between them. Tommy caught up to Lily in a narrow side tunnel, where she and Dr. Chen had cornered Ms. Winters against a dead end. The librarian clutched the box containing the idol to her chest, like a mother protecting a child. "Give it to us," Dr. Chen demanded. Extending his hand, "You don't understand its power," Ms. Winters replied, eyes wild. "The good it brings, and the evil," Lily countered. "The sickness, the accidents, the mental illness. It takes payment in different ways." A massive tremor shook the passage. The wall behind Ms. Winters cracked open, revealing another hidden cavity. Inside, barely visible, was a stone receptacle carved with symbols matching those on the ancient tablet. "The containment vessel," Tommy breathed in realization. Ms. Winters glanced behind her, saw the receptacle, and her eyes widened in understanding or madness. No, it must remain free to bestow its gifts. She opened the box, reaching for the idol directly. The moment her fingers touched the golden surface, a blinding light erupted from within. Miss Winters screamed, her body convulsing. "The dagger!" Dr. Chen shouted to Tommy above the rumbling mountain. "Use it to return the idol." Understanding instinctively, Tommy stepped forward with the ceremonial blade. Its true purpose wasn't to take life, but to safely handle what should never be touched directly. As the mountains shuddered around them, Tommy raised the ancient dagger, prepared to end a cycle of bloodshed that had sustained and corrupted Pinecrest Valley for 7 generations. The ceremonial dagger felt impossibly heavy in Tommy's hand as he approached Ms. Winters, who still clutched the glowing idol. Her eyes had taken on the same unnatural gleam, skin paling to a sickly translucence. "Give it to me," Tommy said, his voice steadier than he felt. "You don't command it." "Boy," Ms. Winters replied, but the voice seemed layered, as if something else spoke through her. "For generations it has fed on sacrifice. It will not be denied." The mountains shuddered violently. Chunks of ceiling crashed around them, forcing Dr. Chen to pull Lily back. "Tommy!" Lily called. "Be careful." Ms. Winters lunged suddenly, inhumanly quick, the idol extended before her like a weapon. Tommy reacted instinctively, using the flat of the obsidian blade to deflect her hand away from him. The idol's glow intensified where the dagger touched it. "The knife rejects it," Dr. Chen observed. "They're opposing forces!" Understanding bloomed in Tommy's mind. The dagger was created to contain it, not serve it. Another violent tremor knocked everyone off balance. The passage behind them began collapsing, blocking their retreat. Only the small chamber with the stone receptacle remained stable. Ms. Winters recovered first, backing toward the carved vessel. 7 generations of blood," she hissed. "It requires one final sacrifice to attain its full power." Tommy realized with horror that she intended to use herself as the sacrifice. "No! That's what it wants you to think!" Reynolds appeared suddenly from a side passage none of them had noticed, his face bloodied, eyes wild. "Judith, give me the idol." He commanded Ms. Winters. "Where's Earl?" Dr. Chen demanded. Reynolds ignored him, fixated on the golden figure. "I've kept faith through everything." "It belongs to me." "It belongs to no one," came Daniel Wright's voice as he emerged behind Reynolds, supported by Sarah. "It uses people. Consumes them." The chamber shook continuously now, the mountain's patience exhausted. Cooper and Peterson appeared, helping a limping Earl. "The exits are collapsing," Cooper reported grimly. "We have minutes, maybe less." Tommy glanced at the stone receptacle, then at the dagger in his hand. The indigenous carvings on both depicted the same scene, the idol being placed into the vessel, using the blade as a barrier between human flesh and the malevolent object. "Everyone back," Tommy ordered, with an authority beyond his years. "I know what to do." Reynolds made a desperate lunge toward Ms. Winters, reaching for the idol. "The prosperity must continue." "Frank, no!" Earl shouted, too late. Reynolds' fingers closed around the idol while Ms. Winters still held it. A blinding flash erupted, accompanied by an otherworldly shriek. When the light faded, both Reynolds and Ms. Winters stood frozen, expressions locked in grotesque masks of ecstasy and agony, veins visible beneath their skin, glowing with the same unearthly light as the idol. "It's consuming them," Daniel gasped. Tommy approached cautiously, ceremonial dagger extended. "Let them go," he commanded the idol directly. The light pulsed, seeming to consider his words. Then Reynolds and Ms. Winters collapsed simultaneously, the idol clattering to the stone floor between them. Their bodies crumbled unnaturally, desiccated as if aged centuries in seconds. "Tommy, don't touch it," Sarah cried. "I won't," Tommy assured her, using the flat of the blade to carefully nudge the idol toward the stone receptacle. The mountain's rumbling intensified to a deafening roar. Large sections of ceiling gave way throughout the mine. The group pressed against the walls of the small chamber, watching as Tommy completed the task generations overdue. "Together," Earl said suddenly, stepping forward despite his injuries. "A Miller started this, a Miller should finish it." Tommy nodded, making space for his grandfather beside him. Together, they used the ceremonial dagger to push the idol into its ancient prison. The moment it settled into place, a beam of brilliant white light erupted upward, freezing everyone in place, everyone except Tommy. In that suspended moment, Tommy experienced a vision, indigenous people performing a ritual around the stone vessel, using the obsidian dagger to secure bindings over the containment. Their leader's voice echoed across time. Not worship, imprisonment. Every generation must renew the binding, or darkness returns. The founders had misinterpreted everything, twisting a containment ritual into worship and sacrifice, unleashing what should have remained bound. The moment passed. Time resumed. The beam of light subsided, but the idol remained in its vessel, its glow gradually diminishing. The tremors stopped abruptly. An unnatural silence fell over the chamber. "Is it over?" Lily whispered. "The binding is restored," Tommy confirmed, somehow certain. "It's contained again." Earl examined the stone receptacle with weary satisfaction. So much bloodshed, so many lives lost to misguided greed. Cooper helped Peterson check Reynolds and Ms. Winters, confirming what everyone already knew. They were beyond help. "We need to get out before the damaged sections collapse completely," Cooper urged. As they made their way through the stabilized but heavily damaged tunnels, Daniel fell into step beside Tommy. "How did you know what to do?" he asked quietly. "I didn't," Tommy admitted. "Not until I held the dagger. Then it was like the knowledge was waiting for me." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's how justice works sometimes. It waits for the right person to arrive." They emerged from the secret entrance into the cool night air, just as state police vehicles arrived, lights flashing against the dark tree line. The Founders' Day celebration continued in town, unaware that its dark underpinning had just been severed forever. Sarah hugged Tommy fiercely. "Don't you ever scare me like that again." "I'm sorry, Mom," he murmured into her shoulder. "Don't be sorry," Earl told him, standing straighter despite his injuries. "Be proud. You've done what I couldn't 30 years ago. You've brought real justice to Pinecrest Valley." As the adults began explaining the situation to bewildered state officers, Tommy and Lily stood slightly apart, looking back at the mountain silhouette against the night sky. "Do you think it's really over?" Lily asked. Tommy considered the question, feeling older than his years. "The idol is contained. The sacrifices are finished. But the truth, that's just beginning." Behind them, the mountain stood silent sentinel, its secrets revealed, its curse lifted by the courage of a boy who found a man chained to a tree and chose to help. 1 year later, autumn painted Pinecrest Valley in fiery colors as Tommy stood before the newly unveiled historical marker at the edge of town. The bronze plaque told a story vastly different from the one taught in schools just 12 months ago. Pinecrest Valley, founded 1849. This site commemorates both the indigenous people who first stewarded these lands and the complex history of our community. May truth and reconciliation guide our future. Subtle wording, Daniel Wright commented, joining Tommy at the marker. His once gaunt frame had filled out, though scars on his wrists remained visible, physical reminders of his ordeal. The town council compromised, Tommy explained. Some wanted no mention of the past at all. And how do you feel about it? Tommy considered the question. At 11, nearly 12 now, he chose his words carefully. It's a start. The full story is in the museum. That museum, once the town hall, had become Pinecrest Valley's center for reconciliation. Inside, carefully curated exhibits explained the true history, the indigenous people who created a containment ritual for an object they believed malevolent, the founders who misinterpreted the ritual and began a cycle of sacrifices, and the generations who benefited from blood unknowingly shed in their name. Daniel nodded toward Main Street, where Founders' Day decorations had been replaced with the more subdued Heritage Festival banners. Your grandfather would be proud. Tommy's throat tightened. Earl hadn't survived to see the changes his courage helped create. 3 months after that night in the mine, he'd passed peacefully in his sleep, his mind clear and unburdened in his final days. He got to see the truth come out, Tommy said. That's what mattered to him. They walked toward the museum, where a small crowd gathered for the opening ceremony. Sarah stood at the entrance, discussing last-minute details with Dr. Chen, now the museum's historical consultant. The past year had transformed Pinecrest Valley. When state investigators uncovered the remains of multiple victims in the sealed mine dating back to 1849, national media descended on the town. The subsequent trials of surviving cult members exposed generations of corruption and coerced silence. Sheriff Cooper had negotiated a reduced sentence in exchange for his testimony, his cooperation deemed essential by prosecutors. He currently served as the state's key witness against former council members. There's Lily, Tommy pointed out as his friend emerged from the museum, clipboard in hand. Since that night, their friendship had deepened through shared trauma and recovery. Lily had channeled her experience into activism, founding the school's first Truth in History club. Tommy, she called. They're ready for us. Inside, the museum's central exhibit awaited its official unveiling. Sarah squeezed Tommy's shoulder as he approached the covered display case. Ready? She asked. He nodded, and together they removed the cloth, revealing the ceremonial dagger, now secured behind glass alongside Earl's journal and photographs documenting both the cult's activities and the indigenous artifacts recovered from the mine. A small crowd applauded, townspeople still coming to terms with their community's complex legacy. Some businesses had closed when the promised prosperity vanished with the cult's dissolution. Others discovered unexpected opportunities in tourism and historical research. This museum stands as testament to uncomfortable truths, Daniel addressed the gathering as the invited keynote speaker, but also to the courage of those who chose justice over prosperity built on deception. Tommy's gaze drifted to the photograph of Earl in his sheriff's uniform, displayed prominently beside the case. His grandfather's final journal entry had become the museum's unofficial motto, etched beneath the display. Real justice isn't always what the law says. Sometimes it's simply ensuring the truth isn't buried. After the ceremony, Tommy found himself alone, briefly, with the display. The dagger lay inert now, its supernatural purpose fulfilled. The idol itself remained sealed in its proper containment vessel, secured in a government facility under the protection of indigenous elders from the region. Quite a legacy for a boy your age, Mr. Peterson commented, joining Tommy. The former janitor now served as town manager following the dissolution of the previous government. Not just mine, Tommy corrected. Everyone who helped. Peterson smiled gently. Still, it began with you finding a man chained to a tree and making the choice most adults wouldn't have had the courage to make. As visitors filtered through the exhibit, Tommy stepped outside into the autumn sunlight. The mountain loomed in the distance, no longer threatening, its secrets revealed and its curse lifted. Sarah joined him, linking her arm through his. "Penny for your thoughts." "Just thinking about Grandpa's words about secrets and lies," Tommy replied, "and how sometimes the most important choice is the first one, whether to help or walk away." "You never considered walking away," Sarah observed proudly. Tommy smiled up at his mother. "Some choices make themselves." As they returned inside to join the community, still healing from generations of darkness, Tommy glanced once more at the mountain silhouette against the clear sky. Its shadow no longer felt ominous, but protective, as if having released its long-held secrets, it now stood guardian over a town, finally finding its way toward truth.